I missed you today, but I'm really excited to talk to you about a new structure for your math lessons that will lend itself to more conceptual, discovery-based learning for your kids, but also be much more, or much easier and much more beneficial to your data collection for you guys too. So let's jump in. The other thing, I don't want you to be scared when you hear conceptual, discovery-based. I know that I think you use Envision. Yes, DJ?
Sure.
And that has some conceptual parts to it, but also has direct teaching. You can still use parts of your direct teaching kind of strategy repertoire with this structure, but I think changing this overall structure of your lessons will just be really helpful in getting your kids to talk more about math and align your lessons more to the Common Core Standards for Mathematical Practice that goes from K through 12. So just really setting them up on that path for math success. So the first part, and you have this in front of you, is the launch or the hook, or both really, which takes less than 10 minutes. So do not do this for more than 10 minutes. And this is where you would pose a question or a problem, share a bit of background knowledge about the concept if they need it, and then you want to always connect it to your larger goal or the why this is important to do, which is so easy in math because math is everywhere and your kids should be very familiar with that concept. If you're doing more of a direct teaching, this is the part where you would teach them how to do the skill that you want them to do, but again, no longer than 10 minutes. The next part of the lesson is student work time. So based on what problem or question you gave them or what you taught them to do in the launch, then they have a chance for 15-20 minutes, or depending on how much time you have, you can change the time around, to independently work on that problem or that set of problems, to think about it in multiple ways. And so that's tying into the strategies from the practices for math from the Common Core of strategy flexibility. And what you're doing during that time, so they have something that they're working on for the straight 15-20 minutes. No one has ever done, no one gets this new worksheet or that new worksheet. What they're working on, they are doing for that solid amount of time, so that they're trying it in different ways. So it's not just like one and done. They're exploring other strategies, and you're walking around, you're conferencing with different students, you're seeing what they're doing. For certain lessons, you'd be pulling small groups of kids onto the carpet who either need enrichment or who need remediation based on the lesson. Obviously, you don't have to start that on day one. But in your planning, you'll think about all the different strategies kids can use to answer that one question. So even if it's 3-digit addition, there are tons of different ways that kids can access that problem. And so you, as the teacher in your planning, think about all those different ways. And then as you're walking around, you're kind of putting kids into buckets. So this kid used hundreds, tens, and ones. This kid drew out the cubes and the sticks and the blocks. This kid did the standard algorithm that we were taught, where they carried the tens and the ones. And then you'll also be able to see who's understanding it and who's not, so you'll know who to call on in the next part, which is the discourse, or the discussion about the math that just occurred. So the whole group comes back together to discuss the thinking in depth. So not just the answer, but the process behind it, and I really would stress that with your kids, because while accuracy and precision is super important, especially with 1st and 3rd grade, the process is just as important, and it's important that they know all the different ways that they could arrive at the same answer. So this would be a gradual release of control, similar to what we talked about with guided reading, where at the very end of the year, you want the kids to be facilitating, conversing with each other, and then you're more of a facilitator. And then based on what you saw in the work time, you know exactly which kids you're going to call on. So kid A had the least sophisticated strategy. He's going to share first, and he is sharing everything. You might guide him through if he forgets his thinking, but you are not saying what he did at all. Then student B goes, and student B is sharing her thinking. This strategy is a little bit more sophisticated, or it's different in some way. And then the kids can talk about it. So you can pose the question, what was different, what was similar about the ways they solved the problem. For kids that really, really struggled, have them retell what student A or student B did to solve the problem, so that they're getting involved in the conversation as well, even though they were a little bit lost for the past 20 minutes. And I think I sent you both the discussion norms sheet. It was double-sided. You can adapt that and use it for math too. And if you're already using it in your literacy blocks, especially in guided reading and read aloud, it should be really easy for the kids to adjust and then start to use that in math as well. So then after the discourse, you give an exit ticket. So a mini assessment. Another opportunity for the kids to prove what they know. This should really take no more than 5 minutes. It should be quick, 1 or 2 questions. Maybe involve writing. I would say for 3rd grade involve a lot more writing than 1st grade, but still put writing on there in 1st grade. This is the end-all be-all. Like, they'll hand this in and you will know, did they understand it? Did they learn what they were supposed to learn today, or did they not? And then you can decide if you're going to reteach the whole lesson in a different way, or if you're just going to pull a small group, or if the whole class got it and you're ready to move on completely. They are doing this completely independently, so they get no help from their friends, they get no help from you. It's like a mini test. And it's also a great gauge for you as you walk around to see, like, oh, this kid really got it in the student work time, but now on the exit ticket is kind of bombing it, so that makes me think that he didn't really understand it the first time he heard what the kid across from him was saying. Or this kid really struggled during work time, but then I called on him in the discourse and he was able to retell the strategy, and now he's rocking that exit ticket, so he understands what's going on. He's just proved that to me. So you're giving them just this other opportunity to prove what they know and to show that they've made progress in that short time that you've had them for math. And then the last part I said was optional. Again, it depends on your timing. I didn't do it my first 3 years, but my last year I started to do this exit ticket discourse, and I found that it was really, really helpful, and it gave kids more ownership and accountability over their exit ticket because they knew it was going to be shared at the end. And they also knew that they knew what they got wrong, if they got it wrong. And if we had a little extra time, they had to come up and show me exactly what they did wrong, but don't worry about that yet. Getting ahead of myself. So they do the exit ticket, you have a timer on for 5 minutes, they finish it, pencils are down, they come back to the carpet with their paper in their hand, they sit on the carpet, or if you have them at their seats, their paper is there, but no writing utensils are allowed. You know who's to share because you've been walking around, and so you've seen which kids got 100%. I would not share anything that's wrong. I would usually just share one. If you want to share a few that show different strategies or different ways of organizing thinking, which is really important, feel free to do that. Again, that depends on time. For this part, the teacher can do the talking. Slip it under the elmo, hang it up in the front of the room, and say, Anthony, he added the ones first, and then he had, more than 10, so we carried the 10s. He added the 10s up, and then he had an extra 10, or more than 9 10s, so we put it up here because that was 100. You're explaining it, you're saying what the answer is. The kids are on the carpet looking at their paper, and so they know if they've gotten the right answer. Maybe Anthony then explained it in words, and he had a great explanation, and so you show that to them, and you read it to the class. Great, done. They hand in their exit ticket, and math is over. So you've essentially given them 2 or 3, really, opportunities to demonstrate their thinking and demonstrate what they've learned, which is just 3 added opportunities for both of you to collect data at a very, very specific level for each of your kids. So now we can switch gears and talk about planning. So why don't you take a minute and think about a lesson that you did today or yesterday or sometime in the past, and think about what the standard was, if you had an I can statement, what that was, what you wanted the kids to accomplish by the end that would make them successful, that would make you know, okay, they mastered this math standard or this concept.